Time window, from 5:52 a.m. to 6:09 a.m. 8 minutes that rewrote naval warfare. In 8 minutes, Britain lost its pride, and the Atlantic changed forever. May 24th, 1941. The Denmark Strait. The sea is iron grey. Low cloud presses on the horizon. Spray whips across decks as 2 British warships cut north, HMS Hood, pride of the Royal Navy, and the new battleship Prince of Wales. Somewhere ahead, in the mist, Germany's giant is moving, Bismarck, with the heavy cruiser Prince Eugen off her bow. At 5:52 a.m., a lookout calls, "Shapes!" On Hood's bridge, Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland doesn't hesitate. "Open fire!" Hood's forward. Turrets speak first. 4 15-inch shells tear into the grey. The ship shudders. Smoke rolls back along the deck. Seconds later, Prince of Wales joins in, her green crew bracing as new guns kick like hammers. Across the water, Bismarck answers. At 5:55 a.m., 8 15-inch rifles boom together. The concussion punches the chest. White geysers leap around the British line. Prince Eugen's 8-inch guns crackle a heartbeat later, stitching the sea with splashes. On Hood, cheers rise. Salvos are walking toward the target. Then the realization, the fall of shot is tight on the cruiser, not the battleship. They've been hitting Prince Eugen. Holland snaps the correction. Shift fire. Bismarck. Turrets grind. Hood swings to bring all guns to bear. It's the right move, and it turns her just enough to expose her weakness. Inside Bismarck's plotting rooms, the math is cold. Ranges settle. Deflection is called. Feuer frei. Shells the size of small cars arc high into the morning. On Hood's decks, men feel the tremor through their boots as near misses batter the hull. They know what their ship can and can't take. Her belt armor is strong at close range. Her deck, thin against plunging fire. The range closes. The sea keeps heaving. Men keep loading. By 5:59 a.m., Bismarck's 5th salvo rises, 4 black meteors cutting down from the cloud. One finds the angle, plunging near Hood's mainmast. For a heartbeat, silence. Then the world tears open. A fireball rips through her belly. Magazines ignite in a single instant. Mast, turrets, hull, blown sky high. A pillar of flame climbs into the cloud. Steel rains back to the sea. On Prince of Wales, sailors freeze, mouths open, as the mighty Hood breaks in two and vanishes into boiling water. A crew of 1,118. Only 3 will live. In 8 minutes, a nation's memory became 3 survivors. But the guns do not fall quiet. Prince of Wales keeps firing, wounded but defiant. Her shells smash into Bismarck's bow, rupturing forward fuel tanks. Black oil spills across the Atlantic. Inside the German hull, engineers curse as compartments flood. The clock reads 6:09 a.m. 8 minutes since the first shot. Britain's symbol is gone. On Bismarck's decks, cheers stumble into silence. Victory has a price. The giant is bleeding. The battle in the Strait is over. The hunt has only just begun. Before the fire at dawn, before one shell split the Atlantic in 2, there were 2 ships and 2 nations, pouring identity into steel. HMS Hood was Britain afloat. Laid down as the First World War still thundered, she entered service as the Empire exhaled. Long, lean, and fast. 860 feet of grace and menace. 4 twin 15-inch turrets that could batter a coastline, and speed to run with any battle line. When Hood came to port, crowds didn't just look, they saluted. To serve aboard her was to wear a nation's pride on your sleeve. But pride masked a flaw. Hood was a battlecruiser at heart, built to hit hard and outrun trouble, not to trade at long, arcing ranges. Along her sides, thick belt armor promised survival in a close-range slugging match. Overhead, her deck protection was thin, a compromise. From another era, the Admiralty knew, engineers knew, modernization plans came and went as budgets tightened and crises multiplied. By 1941, the legend gleamed, the armor philosophy did not. Across the North Sea, Germany answered with something new. Bismarck was not tradition, she was statement. 823 feet, more than 50,000 tons at fighting weight. 8 15-inch rifles with high muzzle velocity and exquisite optics to see through spray and gloom. Her armor scheme was a citadel, sloped belt, layered decks, magazines buried deep, compartments subdivided again and again, so damage would drown in steel before it reached her heart. 30 knots on the open Atlantic put her in the rare company of ships that could choose their fights. Life aboard reflected that intent. Machinery rooms hummed with order. Damage control drills were religion. Galleys fed sailors hot and heavy in cold seas. Compared to many navies, bunks were wider, spaces warmer, morale buoyed by the feeling of serving on the Reich's masterpiece. Propaganda called her unsinkable. Sailors didn't use that word, but they walked her decks with the quiet confidence of men carrying a giant's shield, and still, limitations. Bismarck could scout with seaplanes, but she carried no umbrella of fighters the way a carrier task force could. Her anti-aircraft battery was fierce for a battleship, not a swarm. Above all, her ocean war depended on fuel and freedom of maneuver. Punch a hole in the bow tanks, and the Atlantic turns from highway to trap. 2 myths, 2 machines. Hood, the beloved veteran whose name steadied British hearts, her silhouette a promise that the Royal Navy still ruled horizons. Bismarck, the new Leviathan built to break blockades and Britain's will, proof that Versailles was dead paper and German industry very much alive. They were more than instruments. They were symbols. For Britain, Hood's survival was continuity, morale, the old order holding fast. For Germany, Bismarck's success was prestige and deterrence. A single ship forcing an island empire to guard every convoy lane at once. So the meeting was inevitable. One design flaw and one perfect arc of steel will decide everything. Late May 1941. Bismarck and Prince Eugen slip through Norway's fog, bows pointed at the shipping lanes. Neutral eyes report. Reconnaissance. Photographs confirm. In London's map rooms, pins begin to move. The Admiralty's conclusion is simple and cold. Intercept. Doubts flicker. Hood is 20 years at sea, her refit deferred by a decade of crises. But her name is gravity. Hood sails. In Hamburg and on Bismarck's bridge, orders are just as clear. Avoid needless battle, break out into the Atlantic, go to work on Britain's lifelines. Everyone understands the risk. Once found, the Royal Navy will come with everything that floats. Across grey water, 2 burdens of pride turn their prows toward fate. One old, one new, one adored, one proclaimed. The ocean doesn't care. It measures only design, decisions, and the luck that lives in a single shell's fall. The giants are moving. To understand why a battle can end in 8 minutes, you have to walk the steel first. Step aboard HMS Hood, the longest warship on Earth when she commissioned. Wide, windswept decks, a city of hammocks and mess tins below, 4 great twin turrets, 15-inch, rifles that once defined naval power. Her creed was speed, hit like a battleship, run like a cruiser. Belt armor thick along the sides for a close brawl. Overhead, thinner decks, acceptable when shells flew flatter, dangerous when they fell from the sky. Gunnery in Hood is muscle and rhythm. Shells as heavy as a motorcycle lifted by hoist and hand. Cordite bags passed along in a chain that cannot break. Range kept by optics and experience. Corrections barked in short, clipped sentences. She can still kill anything she reaches. The question is, at what range is she forced to fight? Now cross to Bismarck. Precision replaces pageantry. Passageways gleam. Pipes are labelled like a diagram. Damage control lockers sit everywhere. Axes, hoses, plugs. Because German design assumes you will be hit and live. 8 15-inch rifles again, but driven by high velocity and superb optics. A sloped belt wraps the vitals. Layered decks turn fragments and heat away from magazines. Bulkheads subdivide the ship into 100 small survivals. Her fire control combines glass and mathematics, and, in foul weather, surface radar to keep contact through sleet and spray. Life aboard tells the doctrine. On Hood, Polish, ceremony, the pride of empire carried like a uniform. On Bismarck, drills, stopwatches, a quiet confidence that the ship's geometry will buy seconds when chaos breaks loose. Each hull hides a fatal if Hood must trade at long range. Plunging angles turn her thin decks into invitations. A single shell through the wrong place is a straight line to catastrophe. If Bismarck is forced to run with wounded tanks, every mile is measured in fuel she no longer has. The Atlantic becomes a tracker, not a cloak. And for all her guns, She cannot swat a sky full of torpedo planes the way a carrier group can. Gunnery truths ignore flags. Longer range stretches time between salvo and splash, but magnifies the penalty of one perfect fall. Closing the range flattens trajectory, better for Hood, yet exposes you to a storm while you race in. So the equation is set before a shot is fired. A veteran thoroughbred, lethal up close, wearing a crown that's too thin. A new fortress, built to absorb pain, whose freedom depends on staying unhurt and unseen. The ocean will decide which if arrives first. Gottenhafen, May 18th, 1941. Grey dawn. Winches rattle, hatches close. Bismarck takes the strain, her screws rolling white across the pier. Alongside, Prince Eugen settles low with fuel and shells. Orders are simple on paper. Break out, vanish into the Atlantic, tear Britain's lifelines. In the Baltic they rehearse with thunder. Salvos walk across grey water. Stopwatches click. Damage control drills repeat until every hand knows its station by touch. Then north, through the Kattegat, past neutral shores, under a lid of cloud. In Berlin, the radio boasts, "At sea, only silence matters." Secrecy lasts hours, not days. A Swedish observer notes two giants sliding west. Cameras aboard RAF Recon blink in icy air. Pins move on a British wall map. Churchill's voice is a knife. The Bismarck must be destroyed. Norway's fjords, May 21st. The ships refuel under snow-capped cliffs. Still water, still breath. Then aircraft shadows cross the rock, and the stillness ends. Lines are cast off. The hunt begins in earnest. From Scapa Flow, steel unmoors. HMS Hood, empire afloat. Prince of Wales, new, unblooded, still shaking out faults. Cruisers and destroyers spread like a net. A carrier decks swordfish for foul weather. The North Atlantic obliges with rain and fog. To raiders, it's a friend. To the Royal Navy, it's a problem radar can solve. Evening of May 23rd. Suffolk's set finds two vast ghosts in the murk of the Denmark Strait. Norfolk slips into shadow. Radio pulses back to London. The wolves have the scent. Aboard Bismarck, the bridge tightens. Being seen was never part of the plan. Lutyens, cautious by order and by nature, argues for the mission. Avoid battle, break out, raid. Lindemann, all ship and steel, keeps his eyes forward. If they block the door, we fight through the door. All night the cruisers hang astern, too light to challenge, too vital to lose. Bearings change, reports flow, the gap shrinks. Dawn, May 24th. Cold light lifts the lid of cloud. On the German horizon, not cruisers, two larger shadows, bows lifting, spray silvering their flanks. Hood, Prince of Wales, gunnery crews stand to. Breaches slam, voice pipes cut the wind. On one side, a brand new fortress with orders to avoid a duel. On the other, a beloved veteran with no choice but to close. The breakout has become a collision course. The strait narrows, ranges tumble. Someone, in the next minutes, will be first to land a perfect fall of shot. Someone is about to land the perfect fall of shot. Dawn crawls over the Denmark Strait. Steel sea, low cloud, breath that fogs in the cold. HMS Hood and the new Prince of Wales rise and fall through grey swells, bows throwing silver. On Hood's bridge, Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland is flint and focus. Close the range. Keep enemy shells flat. Don't give them the sky. Across the mist, two shadows harden. Bismarck and Prince Eugen, bows knifing north. In Bismarck's nerve centre, Captain Ernst Lindemann's voice is level. Admiral Lutyens is all restraint, ordered to break out, not duel. But the door is blocked. There's only one way through. At T5:52 a.m. Holland gives it. Open fire. Hood's forward turrets cough flame. 15-inch shells tear out into the gloom. Prince of Wales joins, her brand new guns bucking, crews gritting through jams and misfires. At first the British straddle the wrong silhouette, Prince Eugen, until the error snaps into place. Shift fire. Turrets grind. In swinging to correct, Hood shows more deck to a plunging arc of steel. At 5:55 a.m., Lindemann, Feuer frei. Bismarck answers with 8 great rifles at once. The concussion punches chests. Black geysers leap around the British line. Prince Eugen's 8 inches rake Hood's decks, sparks and splinters skipping across steel. The range tumbles. 22,000, 18 yards. Holland heaves hood to port to bring her full broadside on. It's the right tactic, and the most dangerous moment. Salvos walk in. Near misses slam green water over Hood's forecastle. Below decks a loader feels the deck tremble. Gunnery crews grind through the drill. Bag, shell, ram, breach, eyes. On the next correction, by 6:01 a.m., Bismarck's fifth salvo claws at the sky and drops a single perfect killer. One shell plunges aft of Hood's mainmast, punches through her thin deck, finds the magazines. White flash, then hell. A pillar of flame obliterates her midships. The mighty Hood folds in two. Turrets, mast, men, flung skyward and gone. In less than 8 minutes of battle, Britain's pride vanishes into boiling oil and wreckage. Out of 1,418 souls, only 3 will live to tell it. On Prince of Wales, silence, then stunned orders. She fights on alone, her salvos now bracketing. Bismarck, one bites. Forward hits that ruptured German fuel tanks. Black oil trails astern, range and freedom bleed away with it. On Bismarck's bridge, some cheer, others cross themselves. Lindemann's knuckles pale on the rail. Lutyens says nothing. They've slain a legend, and lit a beacon the entire Royal Navy will follow. At 6:09 a.m., the shock settles into fury. Across the fleet, one order gathers like a storm front. Sink the Bismarck. The Denmark Strait closes behind them. Smoke, oil, 3 men in a raft. And the hunt begins. The Denmark Strait falls astern. Smoke, oil, 3 survivors. Ahead, the Atlantic yawns and Bismarck runs. Her decks still stink of cordite. Her bows bleed black. Prince of Wales's shells have torn open forward fuel tanks. Every mile leaves a dark signature on the sea. In London, disbelief hardens to command. Churchill's order rips through signals rooms and steel decks alike. Sink the Bismarck. Cruisers Suffolk and Norfolk shadow in the fog, their radar slicing grey. They cannot fight, so they follow, calling every course change like wolves on a ridge. Night drops. From Victorious, swordfish biplanes claw into the dark, canvas and courage against a fortress of steel. Searchlights stab, flak turns the sky to shrapnel, torpedoes thud, spray, shock, little damage. The giant lives, but sleeps no easier. Dawn, May 25th. A break in weather and a break in contact. The shadowing cruisers lose her. Radio rooms crackle with a single sick word. Enemy lost. For 30 hours the Atlantic swallows a battleship. In the war rooms, pins freeze. At sea, tempers don't. Fleets wheel blind across whitecaps. Then, luck favors the stubborn. A Catalina, low over combers, spots a smear of oil and a grey blade of bow. Enemy in sight. Ark Royal turns into the gale and throws her swordfish. Again. Storm-lashed, wing fabric rattling, they find Bismarck. The flak is a wall. They fly through it. Torpedoes skip and dig. One slams near the stern. Deep shock, a sickening twist. Rudders jam hard to port. Bismarck begins to circle. The ocean that was a road becomes a cage. Through the night, destroyers nip and strike. White wakes, black water, hammer blow torpedoes. The giant shudders, bleeds, but refuses to break. Dawn gathers on May 27th. On the horizon, shapes harden. Rodney, King George V cruisers astern. On Bismarck's decks, sailors light last cigarettes. Some write names and fold them into pockets. She can still fire. She cannot run. The chase is over. The last stand is about to begin. May 27, 1941. Grey dawn, cold wind, long seas. On the horizon, 2 hulks grow out of mist. HMS Rodney and HMS King George V. Behind them, cruisers. Norfolk, Dorsetshire, with destroyers prowling like wolves. In the centre, Bismarck, rudders, jammed hard to port. Scarred plates. Smoke leaking from wounds. She cannot run. She can still fight. At 8:47 a.m., Rodney speaks first. 15-inch throats bellow. Shock rolls the sea. King George V joins. Great shells scythe air and fall in white towers around the German. Bismarck answers. Forward turrets flame. 15-inch salvos leap back across the grey. Near misses slam British bows. Spray sheets down. For a heartbeat, the old menace is there. Then the range closes. Broadside after broadside, heavy metal finds its mark. Bridge shattered, rangefinders ripped away, masts tumbling. Secondary batteries scream defiance, then die under hammer blows. AA guns stand mute. No planes, only iron. By 9:15 a.m. The British are inside 10,000 yards. Rodney turns full broadside and mauls her. Plating peeled back, turrets smashed, decks a storm of splinters. King George V stitches the wreck with measured fire. Methodical, merciless. Inside Bismarck, fire, smoke, darkness. Compartments flood. Voice pipes are dead. Orders become shouts in the red gloom. Men haul shells by hand. Then there are no guns. Left to feed, 9:31 a.m. Aft turret spits one last ragged salvo, short, wild. Bismarck's final roar. Rodney's reply silences it forever. By 10 Mao, she is a battered citadel, afloat, but no longer a ship. Admiral Lutyens, Captain Lindemann, gone in the ruin. Tovey orders ceasefire. Magazines are low. The giant still will not sink. Dorsetshire moves in. Torpedoes run. Impacts thud deep. Bulkheads fail. German scuttling charges blow. Water pours through steel like night through a broken door. A slow heel. Starboard up. Port down. Men leap into oil and cold at 10:40 a.m. The stern lifts. The hull rears. And Bismarck slides under. Flag and metal swallowed by the Atlantic. Rescue begins. Then U-boat warnings cut it short. Out of more than 2,000 souls, barely 100-odd live to tell it. The guns fall silent. Wake smooth. Wind hardens. A fortress has died on its feet. The Atlantic breathes again. Where thunder lived, only waves and wind. 15,000 feet below, Bismarck lies in cold night. Bow buried. Turrets torn. A flag etched in rust. A tomb of steel. A silence of names. Britain rings her bells. Hood is avenged. Germany lowers its eyes. Mothers count empty chairs. Survivors dream in oil-black water for the rest of their lives. Years pass. Storms erase wakes, not stories. In 1989, cameras find the giant, a silhouette in the dark, still, terrible in ruin. Myth becomes metal. Grief becomes place. What remains is lesson. The age of the big gun ended here. Broken not by one duel but by reach, coordination, persistence. Steel alone cannot rule an ocean. Air and information do. Yet ships are more than armor schemes. They are mess deck laughter, blistered hands, letters never sent. They are courage at stations and fear that never shows. So we remember both names. Hood, the proud old lion. Bismarck, the fortress that would not bow. One gone in 8 minutes, one dying on its feet. Above them, the sea keeps its even breath. Listen closely, and you can almost hear it. A distant rangefinder's tick, a turbine's hum, voices fading into salt and time. Bismarck is gone. Bismarck endures. Not as ship, as story. If this story moved you, keep the history alive. Subscribe, and tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I'll pin the most interesting answers in the next video.